बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। वेलकम बैक टू मैथमेटिकल मेथड्स ऑफ फिज़िक्स। आज हम इसका लेक्चर नंबर 7 देखेंगे। लेट्स सी कि लास्ट टाइम हमने क्या पढ़ा था लेक्चर नंबर 6 में। होमोजीनियस फ्रेडहोम इंटीग्रल इक्वेशन विद डीजेनरेट कर्नल और फ्रेडहोम अल्टरनेटिव, ये दो चीज़ें लास्ट टाइम हमने देखी थी। अगर आपको याद हो तो फ्रेडहोम अल्टरनेटिव में हमने दो प्रोपोजिशंस पढ़ी थी अबाउट एग्जिस्टेंस एंड यूनिकनेस ऑफ द सॉल्यूशंस ऑफ इंटीग्रल इक्वेशंस। तो एग्जिस्टेंस एंड यूनिकनेस अगर आपको थोड़ा सा याद हो प्रोपोजिशन 1 और 2 में हमने इंटीग्रल इक्वेशन को कन्वर्ट किया सिस्टम ऑफ लीनियर अलजेब्राइक इक्वेशंस में। वहाँ से फिर हमने आइगन वैल्यूज और आइगन फंक्शन का कॉन्सेप्ट डेवलप किया और देखा कि कब किन कंडीशंस के मुताबिक आपका सोल्यूशन एग्जिस्ट करेगा और कब ये यूनिक होगा। ठीक है, तो रिकॉल करते हैं प्रोपोजिशंस 1 and 2 of Fredholm alternative. Proposition 1 was, if the homogeneous integral equation ux equal to lambda a to b kx eta u eta d eta, this is a Fredholm integral equation and homogeneous as well because there is no f of x and the limits of integration are constant, has only the trivial solution ux equal to 0, then the corresponding non-homogeneous integral equation always have one and only one solution. Alright, so this was our first proposition. But if the homogeneous equation has some non-trivial solutions, then the corresponding non-homogeneous integral either has no solution or infinite many solutions depending on the given function f of x. Alright, so if it is if your homogeneous equation has non-zero solutions as well, then your solution may have will have more than one solutions or will have no solutions at all. It depends on f of x. And if you recall, in the proposition 2 we stated when this will have zero solution or one it will have infinite many solutions. If the homogeneous integral equation with symmetric kernel, so here we put the condition on the kernel that it has to be symmetric. Symmetric means kx eta should be k eta x. Has a non-trivial solutions corresponding to the eigenvalues lambda j, then the associated non-homogeneous equation with symmetric kernel, this non-homogeneous equation will have a solution if and only if this fx which is appearing here, this fx is orthogonal to the solutions uj, these solutions, non-trivial solutions of homogeneous equations. Alright, so if they are not orthogonal to this system, then it will not have a solution. Alright, so we did couple of examples as well. When your lambda was an eigenvalue and your fx was orthogonal to your solution, the eigenfunction, then we had infinite many solutions. And then we saw another example when your lambda was an eigenvalue but your fx was not orthogonal to the eigenfunction ux. In that case your equation will have no solution at all. Alright, so these were our two propositions which we studied in last lecture of Fredholm alternative, and we implemented these two on examples as well. Today we will carry on with this Fredholm alternative, and then we will go on to approximate any kernel by degenerate kernel. You see, we have solved integral equation with only degenerate kernels. We haven't solved integral equation for a general kernel till now. Alright, so so now what we will do is we will take any general kernel which is not degenerate or not separable. We will try to approximate that kernel by a degenerate kernel and then solve the integral equation. Alright, so a solution of Fredholm equation of second kind with symmetric kernel. So these three things will be our main topics of today's lecture, lecture number 7. So let's start with the Fredholm alternative. Existence of the solution of Fredholm integral equation when kernel is non-symmetric. Last time we studied the same thing, existence of the solution of Fredholm equation when the kernel was symmetric, but now we will study the existence of solution with non-symmetric kernels. Alright, we shall understand this phenomena with the help of following example. Consider the following Fredholm integral equation of second kind. Ux is equal to fx plus lambda 0 to pi cosine square x cosine 2 eta plus cosine 3x cosine cube eta d u eta d eta. To prove the existence of the solution, we only use proposition 1 of the Fredholm alternative for a non-symmetric kernel. This is non-symmetric kernel. Why? Because if you interchange x and eta, you are not getting your kernel back. Alright? Cosine square x, if you make it cosine square eta and this is cosine 2x, of course they will be different than this kernel. So if we write the associated homogeneous equation, we drop this fx term, then we will get this. Alright? The above equation has two non-trivial solutions or eigenfunctions, cosine square x and cosine 3x. You can prove it very easily. I haven't solved it, but these are not coming from here. I didn't just take these cosine square x and cosine 3x. Alright? You actually have to solve it and you will get these two solutions as your eigenfunctions. So if you solve it and find the eigenvalues, you will get pi, 4 by pi and 8 by pi, and then your eigenfunctions will be cosine square x and cosine 3x respectively. Alright? You need to actually solve this equation. Therefore, the given integral equation will have solution if the parameter lambda is not equal to either one of the above two eigenvalues, 4 by pi and 8 by pi. But when lambda is equal to 4 by pi or 8 by pi, then the given integral equation may have either no solution or infinite many solutions. Alright? It depends on f of x. This is according to the proposition 1 of Fredholm alternative. If you go back to proposition 1, right here, he said if your homogeneous equation has non-trivial solutions. Non-trivial solution means if lambda is not your eigenvalue. If lambda is an eigenvalue, you don't get non-trivial solutions. You get non-trivial solutions. So if you have no non-trivial solutions, only zero solution, then if your equation has only zero solution, it will happen only if lambda is equal to eigenvalue. Alright? So that's why we wrote here, if lambda is equal to eigenvalue, then your equation will have non-trivial solutions, and when it has non-trivial solution, your non-homogeneous equation may have more than one solution, or it will have no solution at all. Alright? So for these values you get unique solution. If lambda is not equal to 4 by pi or 8 by pi, then you will get a unique solution. Special case, when fx is cosine x, let's say fx is cosine x, and let's assume that lambda is equal to 4 by pi. Alright? So consider fx equal to cosine x and let lambda to be equal to one of the eigenvalues. Then your function has to be orthogonal to, see here, proposition 2. In proposition 2, he said if your lambda has non-trivial solution, your homogeneous equation, it means lambda is your eigenvalue. If lambda is your eigenvalue, then your function has to be orthogonal to this ux. That's why we are checking the orthogonality here. Right? So orthogonal means if you multiply fx by your eigenfunction and take the limit from 0 to pi, it should be equal to 0. Similarly, if your lambda is 8 by pi, then your eigenfunction is u2x, and if you can see fx is still orthogonal to u2x as well, which is 0. Therefore, we conclude that when lambda is 4 by pi or 8 by pi, then the given integral equation has infinite number of solutions. Alright? Then your integral equation has infinite number of solutions. Why? Again, going back to kernel 2, it said your equation will have solution if and only if fx is orthogonal to ux. So it means it will have solution, and then proposition 1 says if it has solution, then it will be infinite many solutions. See, if lambda is an eigenvalue, then you either has no solution or infinite many solution. So proposition 2 stated that we will have a solution, and now proposition 1 says that you will have infinite many solutions. So by using both these propositions, we conclude that whenever lambda is 4 by pi or 8 by pi and your fx is cosine x, then your given integral equation will have infinite number of solutions, not just one or two. So let's see another example. Discuss the existence and uniqueness of the following Fredholm integral equation. So fx is 2x and your kernel is sine of log of x, u eta d eta. Here kernel is sine of log of x, which is non-symmetric. You can easily see that it is non-symmetric, and it is degenerate with one term where a1x is equal to sine of log of x times 1. So you can call b1 eta is equal to 1, because this whole term is a function of x. So you can call it a1 of x, and the other part which is b1 eta, you can call it 1. The associated homogeneous equation is this. If you write the associated homogeneous equation, you can drop this 2x, and just for the convenience we wrote phi of x, because ux satisfies non-homogeneous equation, so phi of x is satisfying homogeneous equation. Even if you write ux and ux here, it will not change anything. Alright, so case 1 is if lambda is not equal to lambda 1, then the solution of the colored equation exists and it is unique. Right? Proposition 1 says if your lambda is not equal to the eigenvalue, then you will have a unique solution. Alright, we can determine the unique solution as follows. Again, using the same technique which we have been studying, what we do is we bring this sine term outside, and integral from 0 to 1 u eta d eta, we can call it c. Right? So we called it c1, so 2x plus lambda c1 sine log of x, where c1 is the integral of u eta d eta. Substituting the values, again if you replace this u here on the right hand side, you will get the value of c1. So you got algebraic equation instead of integral equation. We solve the integral of the above equation by first substituting and then by parts. So if you say log of eta is equal to t, then your integration will become sine t, but d eta will become et dt. So et dt, and now if you integrate by parts, you will get the answer. Alright, so this is what you got for c1. So here of course lambda has to be not equal to minus 2, because if lambda is equal to minus 2, then this c1 will not exist. Therefore for lambda not equal to minus 2, we have the unique solution, which is given by ux equal to 2x plus 2 over 2 plus lambda sine of log of x. Alright, so that will be our solution. So now let's discuss the case when lambda is equal to minus 2. What will happen? Here we said lambda should not be equal to negative 2. So if lambda is equal to negative 2, then the eigenfunction corresponding to minus 2 is given by this one. Because phi of x will be just c1 lambda 1 sine of log of x, which is c sine log of x. We can call 2c1 is equal to c. Because lambda 1 is minus 2. Lambda 1 is minus 2, so you can call it negative 2c1 to be equal to c. So c log of x. Now if we check whether this is orthogonal to our f of x, you can just multiply by f of x and integrate. If you do that, you will get a term which is not equal to 0. So if it is not equal to 0, then we do not have any solution. Why? Because your function is not orthogonal to the eigenfunction. If your function is not orthogonal to the eigenfunction, then you will have no solution of the integral equation. Alright, so in this case there does not exist a solution for the case lambda is equal to negative 2. So we are getting a unique solution for lambda equal to minus 2, and we are not getting any solution for lambda equal to minus 2. Alright, so that's how we use proposition 1 and 2 and implement those propositions to our integral equations. So if we change a little bit our kernel, let's say this was our kernel sine of log of x. Let's take sine of log of eta instead of x. Change it a little bit. It's again a non-symmetric kernel. So let's discuss the existence and uniqueness of that equation. Here you see the kernel is sine of log of eta. So if the kernel is sine of log of eta, then a1x equal to 1 and b1 eta is equal to sine log eta. Because here x term is not there, so we can call it 1. And remaining part is your b eta. Then the corresponding homogeneous equation is phi of x mu1 0 to 1 sine log eta phi 1 of eta d eta. We just called the eigenvalue mu1. You can keep it as lambda 1, it's your choice. We are just changing this equation with the previous one. Here we are using lambda 1, so I use mu1 here. The above equation can be written as, because now you see this whole thing is a function of eta, and if you integrate this should be a constant. So you got mu times constant c1, where c1 is this whole thing. Alright, now if we replace this phi here for eta, for phi 1 of eta, then you will get this one. This is not here. You see phi 1 eta is not here because we have replaced it by u1 c1. Alright, we replaced it by mu1 c1. So now if you integrate, mu1 c1 are constants. If you integrate, you got cosine log of eta and stuff like that. Here we have integrated this term. This is sine of log of eta d eta. The answer was negative 1 by 2. So I use the same thing here. The integral of sine of log of eta is negative 1 by 2. Alright, so you got C1 is equal to this one. For non-trivial solution, we cannot take C1 equal to 0, because if C1 is equal to 0, then we get a trivial solution. So for non-trivial solution, we have to take C1 not equal to 0. It means mu1 is equal to negative 2. So hence mu1 is equal to negative 2 is an eigenvalue of the colored equation with the given eigenfunction. What is the eigenfunction? This one. If mu is negative 2, then phi1 of x is negative 2 C1. Alright, so negative 2 C1, you can call it C, it's just a constant. So, but if you take the inner product with f of x, your f of x is 2x. So 2x times phi of x, which is just a constant, times dx will not give you 0. So again, your function is not orthogonal to the eigenfunction, so you have no solution at all. Alright. So therefore, for either case, your kx theta is equal to sine log of x, or kx theta is equal to sine log of eta, we have a unique solution for lambda not equal to minus 2, and we have no solution for lambda equal to minus 2. For eigenvalue, when your lambda is equal to eigenvalue, we are having no solution. So in either case, your unique solution corresponding to lambda not equal to the eigenvalue, and when lambda is equal to the eigenvalue, you have no solution at all. So there is no case for infinite many solutions. Alright. So the next is approximation of any kernel by degenerate kernel. Approximation of any kernel by degenerate kernel. If the kernel kx theta is non-degenerate, then it may be approximated by a degenerate kernel through series expansion. For example, the kernel cosine x eta is non-degenerate. You cannot write this as a sum of the product of separate functions of x and eta. So it's not a degenerate kernel. However, this kernel, if you see m of x eta, which is 1 minus x square eta square by 2 factorial plus x 4 eta 4 by 4 factorial. This is a degenerate kernel. Why? Because here it's a product of two functions, x square eta square, 1 of x, 1 of eta, x 4 eta 4, so 1 of x, 1 of eta, right? So this is a degenerate kernel. This is degenerate. The kernel mx eta is the first three terms of the Maclaurin's expansion of cosine x eta. So if you expand this cosine x eta by Maclaurin series, then you can see that the first three terms of the Maclaurin series are essentially these. Alright, so if the Fredholm integral equation involving kx eta is this one, we can approximate this integral by mx eta by replacing kx eta with mx eta. The whole thing is the same, right? Of course, these two are separate integral equations. That's why we are calling it ux, but here vx. But our claim is that because we have approximated this kernel by mx eta, so we are claiming that vx will approximate ux. The solution of this integral equation will be the approximate solution of the given integral equation. Alright, so the error involved in such an approximation is epsilon equal to ux minus vx absolute value. Because vx is the approximation of ux, it will not be exactly equal to ux, so there may be some error. So let's see an example where we can approximate the solution to the Fredholm integral equation. Ux equal to sine x plus 0 to 1 minus x cosine x eta u eta d eta. Calculate the error where the exact solution of the above equation is 1. So we don't know what is the solution here right now is, but let's say ux equal to 1 is the exact solution, and we approximate the error. So with the help of Maclaurin series, we can approximate our kernel in the following way. You see 1 minus x will remain there. X cosine x eta can be approximated by first three terms of the Maclaurin series, 1 minus x square eta square by 2 factorial, x 4 eta 4 by 4 factorial, and if you multiply x inside, you got this one. So this is a degenerate kernel, right? So we can take mx eta equal to this one. Therefore, vx is equal to fx plus 0 to 1 mx eta v eta d eta. This is our approximate integral equation. So now if we imply the similar methodology of finding the solution of non-homogeneous Fredholm equation with degenerate kernel, alright, we have the following approximate solution. How to do that? It's very easy, because you will get 3 C1s here. If you write 1, it's a little exercise for you, but let me give you a bit hints. This is the case. So what we do is we write fx plus integral of 1 nu eta d eta minus x outside integral of nu eta d eta plus x cube by 2 factorial outside and eta square nu eta d eta, right? So we call this C1, we call this C2, we call this C3, right? So your solution nu x is nothing but fx plus C1, there may be lambda as well, minus x C2 plus x cube by 3 factorial C3, right? So this type of thing. So now replace this v, what we do is in C1, C2, C3 we replace these two equations because C2 is nu eta d eta. So you replace this value here, you will get C1, C2, C3. Similarly C2 you get, and C3 you get C1, C2. So you got a system of algebraic equation, right? So it's a very similar what we have been doing this. In last lecture we did 2-3 examples, all right? So you get a system of algebraic equations, and then of course by solving you get C1, C2, C3. Replacing those C1, C2, C3 here, here and here, you get the solution. All right, so I just recalled the methodology for you guys. It's very easy. If you have been practicing, of course, you can do it very easily. This is what you will get. Sin x plus 1.00308, this is your value of C1, times 1 minus x plus 0.16736, this is the value of C3. All right, C1, C2 are the same, C3 is 0.16738 x cube. So this is the approximation, this is the solution of this equation, which gives you the approximate solution Vx. All right. Now if you take the difference between Ux and Vx, you can see for different values of x, the following table shows the difference between the values of x and Ux and Vx for different values of x. So if you take x is equal to 0, your Vx is 1.0031 and your Ux is 1. So you see a very little difference. Similarly, when x is 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 0.1, they all solutions are very close to 1. Not exactly equal to 1, of course, but they are close to 1. So it's a good approximation, I guess, to the solution of the integral equation. So next is solution of Fredholm equation of second kind with symmetric kernel. So let's see a theorem before doing that. It's a Hilbert-Schmidt theorem. If fx can be written in the form fx equal to a to b kx eta g eta d eta. This is your function, given function in the integral equation, and our claim is if it can be written as this integral where kx eta is a symmetric kernel, then fx can be expanded in an absolutely and uniformly convergent Fourier series with respect to the orthonormal system of eigenfunctions phi1 of x, phi2 of x of the kernel kxt, such that your fx is series fn phi n, and where fn is a to b g eta phi n of x. All right. So this theorem is about f of x, that if your function f of x can be written in this form, then you can write your fx in this series form where phi n of x are the eigenfunctions corresponding to the kernel, and fn are given by these from g eta. All right. So let's see how we can use this in our equations. So solution of Fredholm equation of second kind with symmetric kernel. Consider a Fredholm integral equation of second kind. Ux is equal to fx plus lambda a to b kx eta u eta d eta. With symmetric kernel kx eta is equal to k eta x, we can write the above equation as this one. So if we can write the above equation as this one where h of x is ux minus f of x, what we did is we brought this fx to the left side and we name it another function h of x. Then with the help of Hilbert-Schmidt theorem, here see Hilbert-Schmidt says if fx can be written as this one, so here hx is written in this form, all right, then hx can be written in a form of series where bk are given by this u eta. Here is a mistake. Fn is equal to this fx multiplied by phi n of x. In Fourier series, what you do is you multiply your function by your eigenfunctions and integrate to get the coefficients fn. All right, so same thing happened here. You can write hx as a series of eigenfunctions where bk are given by hx times phi kx. Alright, you multiply h by this phi and integrate to get the coefficients bk of the Fourier series. Alright, so if we replace this hx by this ux minus f of x, we can write bk as this, ux minus fx phi kx dx. And now because you see this is the integration and from a to b they are all constants. So what we did is we wrote it as dk minus ak. Ux phi kx dx is dk and fx phi kx dx is ak. Alright, so bk can be written as dk minus ak, where dk is integral of ux phi kx and ak is the integral of fx and phi kx. Alright, so we wrote it like we wrote it here explicitly. Now substituting the value of hx from the given integral equation, that is this one, the given integral equation, this was the value of h of x. If we replace this in colored equations, your bk here in this red equation, you see, if I replace the value of h from here, h is equal to this integral, if I replace it here, I get this, right? This is your h x. I replaced it here, and now u eta can be brought out of the integration in eta. So you got kx eta and phi kx dx. Whatever you get, you can integrate with respect to eta and you get bk. Here, because your kernel is symmetric, alright, you see, the kernel is symmetric here, kx eta is equal to k eta x, so I can write kx eta as k eta x. I replaced it like this because they are symmetric. Alright, now since phi kx is this, phi k is what? It's the solution of homogeneous integral equation. These are the eigenfunctions basically, corresponding to lambda k, right? So phi kx is equal to lambda k, a to b k x eta phi k eta d eta, or if you want to write it as phi k eta, you can write it as this, lambda k k eta x phi k x dx. This will give you phi k eta. Alright, so you replaced by eta x and eta basically, but they are the same. These are the symmetric kernel are the same. Thus we have bk is equal to lambda a to b. Here you see I replace the value. I replace the value of this thing, which is phi k by lambda k, right? This is what? A to b kx eta phi kx dx is nothing but phi k eta divided by lambda k. Here, this value is phi k eta by lambda k. So I replaced this by phi k eta by lambda k. So when replaced by phi k eta by lambda k, you got this expression. So this is your bk. In view of this blue equation, here we have also know bk from these two equations as well, and bk is this as well. So we can compare. If you compare this thing with this one, I am only getting u eta phi k eta d eta, this one, this thing, not this one. I'm not getting this term at all. So it means ak has to be equal to 0 here, and dk is given by this, right? This is the dk. So I replace this by dk. So bk is nothing but lambda by lambda k dk. Substituting this value in the green equation, here the value of dk, you will get bk is equal to lambda by lambda k bk plus ak, because I replace the value of dk here. Alright, so you got 1 minus lambda by lambda k bk is equal to this one. You can combine these two bk and bk terms. You can combine these two terms. So you got bk in terms of ak. Alright. Now if you go back to the original one, your hx is the sum of bk phi kx. So bk, we just found out the value of bk, which is this. So if you replace this value here in your series, if you replace bk by ak over lambda k minus lambda, this is what you are getting. And since h of x is equal to ux minus f of x, then of course you replaced hx by ux minus f of x, you brought fx on the right hand side, so you got ux equal to fx plus lambda, summation 1 to infinity. This is your bk and phi k of x. Alright, so this is your solution. Now, what is the value of ak? The value of ak is this. right? A to B fx phi k of x dx. This is your ak. If you replace this ak here, this ak by this integral, you obtain this form. All right. So you again got, you see, an integral equation ux is equal to fx plus lambda, but there is no ux inside the integral on the right hand side. You can see that there is no ux on the right hand side inside the integral. If this is the case, then it means this is our solution, not the integral equation, because there is no ux or u eta inside the integral on the right hand side. So we got ux equal to fx plus lambda, and I can call this whole thing, inside thing, as gamma x eta lambda, because you are getting x, you are getting eta, you are getting lambda. So this is a function of x, eta and lambda. All right, where the kernel of the non-homogeneous equation with symmetric kernel is expressed as an infinite series of orthonormal functions phi k of x, that is, this kernel gamma x eta lambda is equal to this series. This is also called the resolvent kernel. If you recall, we have studied resolvent kernel before as well. We solved integral equation with the help of resolvent kernels, and here again we solved integral equation with the help of resolvent kernel. But this resolvent kernel is little different. All right. The one we studied before was or x eta lambda, and or x eta lambda. Or x eta lambda was coming from kmxt, kmx eta. It was coming from the kernel itself. But here, this resolvent kernel is coming from your eigenfunctions, not from the kernel itself. All right. See, this is the sum of phi k of x, phi k of eta, lambda k minus lambda. Lambda is not equal to lambda k. All right, so when your equation is given in this form, ux equal eta is equal to fx plus lambda kx eta u eta d eta with symmetric kernel, what you can do is you can find these eigenfunctions, basically phi k of x. All right, if you are able to find these eigenfunctions phi k of x of the corresponding homogeneous equation, then you can write the solution of your non-homogeneous equation like this: ux is equal to fx plus lambda 0 to a to b, and this resolvent kernel times d eta, where resolvent kernel is given by this function, where of course lambda k are the eigenvalues and phi k are the eigenfunctions. So you can write in terms of series your solution. All right. So we will see examples in the next lecture where we can use this resolvent kernel to solve the integral equation. So for now, let me solve. Let me solve this equation, let's say, for you guys. All right, we had this equation, and I left this as a little exercise for you to find this one. So let's do this example. I have time, 10-15 minutes, so why not just solve it and do some more practice with it. All right, so I can solve this by approximating this kernel with the degenerate kernel. So your v of x was sin x plus 0 to 1 So this is your equation, the integral equation which we are approximating. Our claim is Vx will approximate Ux, right? The exact solution. So here Vx is equal to sin x plus 0 to 1 minus x v eta d eta plus 0 to 1 x cubed by 2 factorial eta square mu eta d eta. So this is what you are getting. We can bring this x part outside. Alright, so call this C1, call this C2. Then this will become sine of x plus C1 1 minus x plus C2 by 2 factorial. Alright, this is your solution. Now we have to find C1 and C2. So we have C1 equal to 0 to 1 nu eta d eta. So nu eta is, what is your nu eta? Nu eta is this whole thing, which is sine eta plus 1 minus eta C1 plus C2 eta square by 2 factorial, eta cube by 2 factorial. Alright, d eta. So this is your C1. And if you simplify it, the integral of sine is minus cosine eta from 0 to 1 plus C1 as it is. This is eta minus eta square by 2, 0 to 1 plus C2 eta 4 by 4 times 2 factorial from 0 to 1. Alright. So if you replace 1 here, you will get minus cos 1 and minus cosine 0 is 1 plus C1. If you replace 1 here, 1 minus 1 by 2, 1 over 4 times 2 factorial. So this is what you got. So this is 1 by 2 and C1 is 1, so C1 by 2 is equal to, here you see C1 minus 1 by 2, C1 is C1 by 2 is equal to, and maybe minus, bring C2 here as well, by 8 is equal to 1 minus cosine of 1. Alright, so this is your 1 equation. Similarly, C2 is 0 to 1 eta square nu eta d eta. So 0 to 1 eta square sine eta plus C1 eta square minus eta cube plus C2 eta 5 by 2 factorial d eta. Right? So I multiplied this nu eta by eta square and then integrate. So here I need integration by parts. Eta square sine eta d eta. C1, these integrations are the easier. Eta cube by 3 factorial by 3 minus eta 4 by 4 from 0 to 1 plus C2 eta 6 by 12 from 0 to 1. Alright, so the first integration, eta square as it is, integral of sine is minus cosine eta from 0 to 1 and minus 0 to 1 2 eta and minus cosine eta d eta. And here it's 1 by 3 minus 1 by 4 is 1 by 12. So this is C1 by 12 and plus C2 by 12. Now by replacing 1 here, it will give you minus cosine 1 and 0 gives you 0. Minus plus 2. Again using integration by parts, eta as it is, cosine has sine eta from 0 to 1 minus 0 to 1, eta is 1 and cosine has sine eta d eta plus C1 by 12 and so on. These are as it is. Alright. This is minus cosine 1 plus 2. Eta 1 is sine 1 minus sine 0 is 0. So this will give you minus sine eta is cosine eta and 0 to 1 plus C1 by 12 plus C2 by 12. So now if you replace, this is C1 by 12, C2 by 12 is C1 by 12 minus C1 is minus C1 by 12 and 1 minus 1 by 12 is 11 by 12. C2 is equal to, this is 2 sine 1 minus cos 1 and cos 1. So cosine 1 and cosine 1 are cancelled. This is gone. But cosine 0 is 1. So this is 1 plus 2 sine 1 minus 1. This is what you are. So this is your equation number 2. So you got two equations in. So you have C1 by 2 minus C2 by 8. Or maybe you can multiply it by 8 to get 4C1 minus C2. So your system is this. 4C1 minus C2 is equal to 8 times 1 minus cosine 1. And here if you multiply by 12, it's minus C1 plus 11 C2 is equal to 12 times 2 sine 1 minus 1. So this is your system of equations from 1 and 2. And the solution is C1 equal to C2 equal to. So now if you verify, your solution should be that 1.00 and 1 point. So you need to solve it to get the solution. And here cosine 1 is what? 1 is in the radians. So you have, if you are using calculators, you need to use 1 in radians. 1 in the radians and take the cosine, it will give you point something, right? Similarly, sine 1 is also in the radians. Don't put 1 in degrees. Sine 1 degree is different than sine 1 radians. If 1 is a real number, has to be in radians. So what you can do is you can multiply by 4 and add, you will get C2, alright, and stuff like that. So if you solve the system for C1 and C2, you should get the value C1 and C2 here. Alright, so I think you can do this much at least. So the values of C1 and C2 are basically this. C1 is 1.00308 and C2 is 0.16736. And I think I have divided by 2 factorial here as well. Alright, so that's the equation which I just solved for you guys. You can redo on your own and see whether I have got the correct equations. Of course, it will be a second check if you do it on your own, and then simplify this. I guess that was it in your. There is no other exercise left for you guys. So what we do is we can wind up our lecture for today's. So let's recall what we have studied today. We started where we left off last time with the Fredholm alternative. We recalled both the propositions, proposition 1 and proposition 2 of Fredholm alternatives. It gives you the conditions for existence and uniqueness of the solutions of integral equations, and then we carried on with this Fredholm alternative for non-symmetric kernels, that how we can deal with the non-symmetric kernels. So we studied, we saw one example where we studied this non-symmetric kernels here, and you see here I left one more exercise for you, so you can do it on your own, that how we got the eigenvalues and eigenvectors here. So again, bringing the x terms outside, you can call the inside thing C1, and similarly here x terms out, so you got C2. So you will again get two equations for C1 and C2 with lambda. So with lambda, it means you need to find lambda eigenvalues for lambda and then the eigenfunction. So lambda 1 and lambda 2 will be 4 by pi and 8 by pi and respectively, and your eigenfunctions should be cosine square x and cosine 3x. So this is an exercise still left for you guys. I hope you can do them easily and find the same solution. And by using that, we find the conditions when there will be a unique solution and when there will be no solution or infinite many solutions. I think in both these examples we found out that there is a unique solution for lambda not equal to 4 by pi and 8 by pi, but there were no solutions for the eigenvalues case. Similarly, in this example and in the very next example, we did two more examples here, and we saw in both the cases when lambda is an eigenvalue, you are getting no solution, and when lambda is not an eigenvalue, we are getting a unique solution. All right, and then we went on to approximate any kernel by degenerate kernel. That is, if you are given a kernel which is not degenerate and we don't know how to solve integral equations for that, so we approximated that kernel with the degenerate kernel with the help of Maclaurin series, and we replaced this cosine x theta by these terms and replaced our equation by this one. And I solved this for you guys and got the solution, and you see there is a very little difference between the exact solution and the approximated solutions. Then we went on to study the solution of Fredholm equation of second kind with symmetric kernel, where we used the eigenfunctions to construct the resolvent kernel. All right, so we used this eigenfunctions phi k of x to construct this type of resolvent kernel. If this is the resolvent kernel, then this gives you the solution. Ux is equal to fx plus lambda a to b gamma x lambda eta lambda d eta. All right, so that is it for today. So what we did today is we carried on with Fredholm alternative, then we went on to approximate kernels by degenerate kernel, and then solution of Fredholm equation of second kind with the help of resolvent kernel. All right, so this was today's lecture number 6. I hope you understood it, and with this I will leave you for today. Thank you very much for being with me. Allah Hafiz and Assalamu Alaikum.